Today, many modern churches teach covenant breaking and adultery, that is, divorce and remarriage, for man-made reasons, no different than the scribes and the Pharisees of Jesus' time. A common new false doctrine is the Matthew adultery clause and the Pauline privilege exception. The Matthew adultery clause is a complete redefining of the fornication phrases in Matthew 19:9 and 5:32. They redefine this to mean adultery, so that if someone commits adultery, the injured party can now divorce and remarry. Note, the exception clause is excluded in the Gospels of Mark and Luke and 1 Corinthians 7:10-11. And this is because Matthew wrote to Jews describing Joseph and Mary's betrothal living under Old Testament law. In the New Testament, man is not to divorce his spouse at all. Marriage begins at engagement. Otherwise, he becomes a covenant breaker, and if he remarries, he becomes an adulterer. If his wife separates, she is to either reconcile or remain single. This is a direct command from the Lord given by the risen Jesus to Paul. B. The Pauline privilege exception clause. This is a complete misinterpretation of 1 Corinthians 7:15. Paul tells the believer to let the unbeliever leave. The new teaching is the abandoned spouse can divorce and remarry someone else. There's no verse that allows for this. Again, separation is not divorce. Man is not to divorce at all. Otherwise, he becomes a covenant breaker. Neither should divorced persons remarry, otherwise they become adulterers. No, even in the Old Testament, God hates divorce. C. The Deuteronomy 24 teaching is resurrected so that people already in adulterous marriages are comforted from repenting and returning to their covenant spouses. You see, the Deuteronomy 24 law was given by Moses as a concession because of the hardness of their hearts. Jesus did away with it. Read Matthew 19:9 carefully. He tells them, "But I say unto you." He did away with Moses' concession and referred back to creation. Summary. Marriage is a covenant by God joining man and woman into one flesh as husband and wife, when vows are exchanged at engagement. A marriage covenant, therefore, ends by death of a spouse. Only a never-been-married person, widows and widowers, can marry. God does not recognize forbidden marriages such as adulterous marriages, homosexual and incestual marriages. Divorce is breaking covenant with God who established the marriage. Man is not to divorce at all. If separation occurs, parties are to remain single or reconcile. Neither is to remarry, otherwise they become adulterers. Covenant breakers and adulterers face judgment. Also, do not marry a divorced person because they're still married to their covenant spouse in God's eyes. Otherwise, you will become an adulterer. Please study the scriptures carefully and pray if you're not sure about this, for God will give you clarity. Please repent of forbidden marriage. Jesus told the adulterous woman to go and sin no more. Thanks for watching. Please repent and follow him. Remember, the church is betrothed to the king. It must remain pure.